Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Vampires again. Yes, we are still assembling our tier list of vampires. If you missed the last part in this particular series, well, you missed a treat. You missed the comment section exploding with rage, with frustration, with disappointment in this, your host, Matthew Dawkins, the Gentleman Gamer, for putting the Hecata at Methuselah tier and making the caitiff no better than Discharge. Yes, it was a controversial episode, I have no doubt, and I say this recording within seconds of the last one, so I have no idea whether it was controversial or not. Bear in mind, this is my taste. These rankings are my taste. And again, we are now, I think, as of time of recording, well, as of time of upload, I intend for this to go up on the final day of the Curseborn Kickstarter. So, what does that mean for you? Well, what it means is, if you want to see me do these videos for the Bloodlines of Vampire the Masquerade as well, and this is a big ask, I'm going to need at least 5 of you to contact me through MatthewDawkins.com, send evidence that you have backed Curseborn at a physical tier, deluxe, with the slipcase and making of, and the dice. As I said in my previous video, this is a big ask of you. It's a monetary outlay, but think of this. You not only get a fantastic new urban horror RPG, you also get to make me make a video on something ridiculous like 35 goddamn bloodlines. So, think on. Think on. This is an opportunity, and I need at least 5 of you to do it to make it worth my while. Time is running out. This is the last day of the Curseborn Kickstarter, so I'm going to upload this video early so you've got time to back, but you don't have much of it. And also, if you don't have enough time to back the Curseborn Kickstarter because you watch this video after that Kickstarter ends, that's fine. Back the World Below physical instead and send me proof of that to MatthewDawkins.com, and that will suffice. But Curseborn is preferable. So anyway, La Sombra next. So we've got our tier list up, and the La Sombra come next. Okay, I have made a video about the La Sombra as well, and my problems, my thoughts on them. I think the La Sombra are a really strong clan in terms of identity. However, I do not like the La Sombra as a general rule, and that's mainly because the players they attract. I've talked about this at length. Yes, there are some people who make perfectly fine La Sombras, and those players are absolute angels. They're wonderful. You're all superstars. I love you all. However, the La Sombra also have a tendency to attract bully dom dickheads who want to use potence because fortitude's for pussies, obtenebration because they're shadowy and edgy, and dominate because why would you use presence when you could just melt someone's brain? And that is kind of the idea behind the clan, as well as the people who are attracted to it. Not all people who are attracted to the La Sombra. Hashtag not all La Sombra. But my experience with the La Sombra has broadly been negative, especially in LARP space. So I am going to be ranking the La Sombra. I can't rank the La Sombra lower than this because I think there are some excellent ideas in there. Some of my favourite characters are La Sombra. I love Tally the Hound. I mean, I wrote him for everything post-novels, I think. And yet, I'm only going to put them at neonate tier. Yes, we are starting out the gate with another inflammatory ranking. I'm having to be harsh here. I have to be harsh here. The La Sombra appreciate they're social Darwinists. You know, they will not learn to be better unless I put them down. So now we have the Malkavians. Now, I did a very recent video about Clan Malkavian and my problems therein, but I think in part talking about them at length, my mind was changed on them to a certain degree, especially the comments people were leaving about how good the Malkavians can be. They're never going to be my clan again. I think the Malkavians have too much negative baggage for me to see them as anything other than at least slightly problematic. I like the ideas of them being chaotic, of them being wild cards, of them being seers and prophets. But likewise, I've seen far too many Joker role plays. I've seen far too many people play mental illness for comedy effect. I've seen far too many interaction with stop signs. I don't find that fun anymore. But I do appreciate how some people are very much attracted to Vampire the Masquerade via the Malkavians. And I appreciate the purpose they serve, not to me, but to others. And I could say this for all the clans, but I think the Malkavians occupy a special place there. So I'm going to not put them lower than Ancilla. They are an Ancilla clan for me. I think they have a valuable place in the game. They're just not my clan. Now, as for the Ministry... I'm going to put the Ministry fairly evenly at neonate tier. Yeah, I know. This may sound very low, and I came up with this while I was talking about the followers of Set. I love that the Ministry open up the concept of the followers of Set. I don't like that... I spoke in the last video about how I admire the purity of the followers of Set, that I like the idea of a corruptor clan. I don't need that to be the Barley. I'm quite happy with that being the Setites. I like how the Ministry was designed. I mean, hell, I that's one of the designers behind them, to open the clan up more, that they are not just Setites necessarily, they are the clan of faith. But... And hell, I played one of my favourite characters in a Vampire the Masquerade game on Red Moon role-playing, where they were a Ministry member, and they had very little to do with Sutek. So I say neonate, and once again I talk myself out of it. I think they are neonates for me because, unlike the Hecata, where I have seen a resounding feedback of positivity with only a few bits of negativity surrounding the Giovanni and the Cappadocia, blah, 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 blah. The Ministry, I think, have confused people in a way that the Hecata didn't. And, I mean, I've only had the opportunity, really... Here's the thing. As a writer, as a developer, I wrote the Ministry for the Anarch book. Well, I wrote them for the core book, but they were in the Anarch book. And I then did a lot of rewrites on the Church of Set in Cults of the Blood Gods. And ultimately what I found is, while I really like the Ministry as a clan, I found that almost, and this is a problem with a lot of the independent and Sabbat clans, without that feel of Serpentis, without the Path of Typhon, without that Setite uniqueness, they kind of feel a little diluted. And this is maybe a problem with having another clan with access to Protean, just snake-flavoured. Why would they have snake-flavoured Protean if they are not Setites? I mean, why would Setites have snake-flavoured Protean when Set isn't a snake? Well, yeah, that's another issue. But, yeah... I'm too lukewarm on the Ministry at this point. Yeah, that's embarrassing to say, because I wrote the damn... I was the one that propositioned their rebrand. I'm sorry. Okay, so moving on to better, warmer waters, the Nosferatu now. Okay, there are very few clans that are quite as dominant, I think, in my view, for Vampire the Masquerade than the Nosferatu. The Nosferatu have a very clear concept. They can be played incredibly well. About the only way that I see people fucking up the Nosferatu is when they decide they're going to put all their dots in Obfuscate at the very beginning and just wear a normal face, because at that point, what's the point of playing a Nosferatu? I love the idea that not only are they another outsider clan, but they have a purpose. They are information gatherers, they're hoarders, they're secret hunters. They have an entire network, whether it's in the sewers or Shreknet, if you're playing with an edition where it still exists. The Nosferatu are a really, really strong clan concept. They're a clan that I never have problems coming up with an idea for, whether it's as a player or a storyteller or a writer. I love coming up with new deformities. I'm a much bigger fan of the Nosferatu being physically revolting, even perfect to the point of revolting, rather than just slightly unsettling. So that wasn't one of my favourite parts of V5. So yeah, Nosferatu, Antediluvian. Undoubtedly, Nosferatu are one of the strongest clans in Vampire the Masquerade. For me, one of my favourites. I don't think they've ever lost that place. And yeah, I absolutely love them. I think they are one of the best concepts that exists in Vampire the Masquerade. Which takes us to the Ravnos. The Ravnos. So here's the thing. The Ravnos, as they've been presented, they have, of course, been through many iterations, as many clans have. The Ravnos probably more than any other. People have been trying to change them, warm them up, make them better, make them less offensive with each passing edition, and somehow you do one step forward, two steps back each time. There's these ties to traveling people, to the Romany. There's ties to stereotypes therein with thieving and distrusting. They're charlatans. They are being othered. I don't know exactly. Again, I didn't write them for V5, but I understand there was some kind of controversy there about them having dead names. I think the use was true names in V5, which has long been a thing in the ideas of sorcery. True name is the ability to control someone. I think that was the Ravnos. Yeah. Yes. The Ravnos. The vampires who are cursed. That's it. The vampires who are cursed to keep moving around. This is how it is in V5. I remember it now. They have to keep moving from place to place. So they're basically Promethean the Created in vampire form. But due to the baggage that the Ravnos already have tied to certain cultural stereotypes, I think that sounds like a very ill thought out Bane. Maybe. As I said earlier, I said here's the thing. And here's my thing with Ravnos. I like the clan. The very first clan book I bought was Ravnos because I was so attracted to the idea of them. And in my naivety, I had no knowledge of the cultural attachments to them. And almost divorced from the cultural side, I think the Ravnos is a really strong idea. I like a clan that is compelled to practice, going all the way back, I think, to first or second edition, compelled to practice its vices. That they are drawn to sin. In a way different from the followers of Set, of course, who want to extract sins from others, but for their religious reasons. I love that. And because I had no idea that they were, at the time, a negative Romany stereotype, or seen as such, I didn't have a problem with that. And there's still a part of me that likes it, but I think they would need a major rework in text to make that happen, which is perhaps why they got nuked, or in revised edition. My feeling is I like the Ravnos a lot, but I like my idea of the Ravnos a lot. So I'm going to rank them high, but I want to make the caveat that I rank them high because I present them in my games very much differently to how they are presented in some of the Vampire the Masquerade books. So I'm going to put them in Elder tier, which again I know is probably quite controversial, but that's because I like the way I happen to do them. And I'll do a separate video on the Ravnos entirely and how I run them in the future. Salubri now, very recently did a video on the Salubri and what I like about them, what I don't. I find that their presentation in the game is generally lukewarm and mixed. I think that the idea that there's only 7 healers is a deliberate ploy to prevent you from playing them. which is fine. It's absolutely fine for a game to present something as storyteller only. The problem is you make the option so appealing that players then want to play as them. The warrior Salubri, in a way, were the bloodline I had the biggest issue with in Masquerade, because they joined the Sabbat basically specifically to war on the Tremier, but there just seems to be too few of them to make it really worth a damn. They're almost introduced too late to see that pay off in any meaningful way. I still very much like my idea of the Salubri, which is Salubri as cult leader, Salubri as love bomber, Salubri as, yes, of course you consent to giving me your blood because you love me. But I don't have the same attraction to them as I do the Ravnos and what can be done with them. I think part of my dislike of the Salubri is, funnily enough, something I've not seen with the Ravnos. With the Ravnos, I tend to see people trying to play them very cautiously, very carefully, very aware of their problems or the way they're presented outside of the game. The Salubri, I think I've seen too many people play them as almost unique. I like snowflakes. I'll have that said now. I love special characters. I love protagonists. I love characters that feel special. In a recent interview I did on Mage the Podcast, I think I said, people always complain in Vampire the Masquerade about snowflakes. In Curseborn, all of your characters are snowflakes because you are all protagonists, and that's a good thing. But I've just not had as much fun with the Salubri, so I'm going to be putting them at Ancilla. Ancilla tier, yes, that's right. Okay, moving on to Thinbloods. Thinbloods, I know what you're thinking. They are the natural clan to put on Discharge. But I actually like that they bring something new to V5. I think the problem is they bring something new in the same way that the Tremier brought something new with thaumaturgy, that with Thin Blood rituals you can really screw up the game. So conceptually, I think Thin Bloods are very interesting. Mechanically, I think Thin Bloods are more fodder for a different game than Vampire the Masquerade, if I'm quite honest. I'd call it Dampier, the half-masked. But yeah, I like the idea of the Thin Bloods. They're a very strong storyteller tool, especially if you're playing around with Gehenna. As a player, I'm not attracted to playing Thin Bloods whatsoever. I don't find Thin Blood rituals appealing, personally. It's a taste thing. I'm not saying they're bad. I just don't like them. So I'm only putting them down as fledgling. I think they still need to find their feet. It'll be interesting to see where Thin Bloods go as time moves on. Okay. Toreador. They are Methuselahs, I think. The Toreador are a very, very good clan for the game. They are your interview with the vampires. They are sexy. They are depraved. They are long-lasting, of course, as all vampires are. But their attention spans are short. They are moths and butterflies. They are attracted to the light, get burned by it, and then fly off. Toreador are a really interesting clan to me. I'm not putting them all the way up to Antediluvian, because I frankly just think the Nosferatu are more appealing to me, and I don't think there should be many clans up there. But I think the Toreadors are really nibbling at the heels of the Antediluvian tier. I think the Toreador are such a strong, again, conceptual idea. I mean, hell, vampires via art. Pick an art form. That is now your vampire concept. Vampires via sex. Pick a kink. Pick a proclivity. That is now your character concept. Do you want to be depraved? Do you want to be an innocent? Do you want to be selected because you were a beautiful model, or because you had skin unblemished and you were still an innocent virgin? All of these things work for the Toreador. Very tempted to put them at Antediluvian tier. I'm going to stick them at Methuselah instead. One of my favourite games I ever ran was an all-Toreador one, which was on this channel. I don't know if it still is. The Berlin Wall, I think was it called The Wall? Some of you probably would have seen it, which was a Toreador game set at the time that the Berlin Wall was falling. And I really, really enjoyed that. So yeah, Toreador Methuselahs. Now we go to Tremier. Ooh, Tremier. Yeah. The Tremier are the favourite clan of a lot of people, and I want to say that it's not just because of thaumaturgy or blood sorcery. What do I think of the Tremier? I think the Tremier offer a fantastic opportunity for, again, a solo clan game. Ran one of those before, and that went very well, set in the Dark Ages. I think they are tied neatly into the meta plot in a way that touches multiple clans, unlike the Giovanni, which is almost exclusively the Cappadocians. I was coming into this tier list thinking the Tremier were going to be pretty low down for me because I've seen too much power gaming with them. I've got so burned out on blood sorcery and thaumaturgy in my years that I'm just tired of seeing vampires throw fireballs. And that is the main sticking point I have with the Tremier. It isn't actually the power gaming aspect, it's the fact that there's a lot of powers accessible via thaumaturgy that simply don't feel like vampire to me. I mean, hell, I will look at disciplines like Mythoceria, or Mythoceria, that the Kiashid have, and I'll say, yeah, I could see a vampire trapping someone in a riddle. I could see a vampire forming a mental labyrinth, because it's all an aspect of dominate. I like that. I could look at, hell, I could probably even look at something like the Daughters of Cacophony, who I don't like at all, and say that Melpomene singing is another form of presence. It makes sense to me. It's a very specific kind of vampire, but that works. Thaumaturgy at its heart, my biggest problem with it is when I envision vampires, I do not envision them and I know I'm really being reductive here, throwing fireballs, throwing lightning bolts, the path of the fucking Levenbolt. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. There are some thaumaturgical paths that make more sense than others. I think Path of the Blood is fine. Even some of the fire magic makes sense, but then it speaks to me that aren't vampires supposed to, at least in Masquerade, isn't fire sort of antithetical to them? Yes, it's a powerful weapon. Why would Yeah, no, sorry, Tremier, you're neonates. You are neonates in perpetuity. Bloodstealers, usurpers. Which takes us on to the Zishi, who have opinions on that. My recent video on the Zishi made me reappraise the clan. Again, partly because of all of you. You very kindly offered lots of ideas for how to play the Zishi, whether in V5 or any prior edition, and why they're an interesting clan. And so it wasn't just what I was saying. I didn't convince myself. It was you, people, who commented and let me know what you thought about the Zishi. So I kind of like them now. I like that old world lord style. Now, I think there's some crossover there with the Ventu, but we'll get on to that. I think that the idea of the old world clan, I mean, in a way, I think we kind of do it better with, and I know, Rich, I've worked on both games, so take my word for it that I'm actually speaking some honesty here. I think we do it better in Curseborn with the heirs and the Bathorites than Masquerade does it with Zishi and the Ventu. But you've got this old world, old money and new money mix going on here with the Zishi and the Ventu, and I think you can play that really nicely. Vicissitude, I still think, is problematic. So I'm not going to put them as Methuselahs. And it's because, as a tool, it is... While it's a very fun discipline, and so I love it. I love fun disciplines. It's much like Thaumaturgy doesn't feel like a vampire power. It feels like an alien space virus from the Deep Umbra, which I have no problem with. I'm quite happy with that. Again, ties to metaplot, and I like things that tie at least lightly to metaplot. But I love the idea of Zishi as antagonists. I love the idea of playing Zishi in a Sabbat game. I think Zishi in the Dark Ages are a hell of a lot of fun. Zishi are elders. Now, before we get to our final one, let me remind you the reasons for this video. One of you, a man called Simon, decided he would pick up Curseborn in the deluxe copy with the slipcase, the making of, and the dice, and asked me, can you make a tier ranking of your vampire clans from Masquerade? And I said, all right, after much begrudging. Now, if you want a video on the bloodlines as well, and this is going to be a many-part video, you are going to need, I'm going to need, at least 5 of you to do that same thing. Deluxe Curseborn, slipcase, making of, dice. Send proof to me on MatthewDawkins.com. The Curseborn Kickstarter ends today, so you really need to get a move on with this. If this is something you want to do, you're going to have to back it. But remember, this isn't just you. You're not paying me. The money isn't going to me. What you're doing is buying yourself a game. You're buying yourself a brand new urban horror role-playing game in the form of Curseborn, and you're getting a video out of it as well. So if it appeals to you, please do it. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul. But I need to see at least 5 to make it worth my time, because these videos take a while. So we finally get to the Ventu. We get to the Ventu on the day the Curseborn Kickstarter's ending. We talk about the Ventu. Well, right now we only have one king. We got the Nosferatu. And I'm sorry, all you La Sombra, Toreador, and Zishi players who are jockeying for the top spot. I'm sorry, Brujah, who are utterly unhappy to see the Ventu rise to this tier. But I think next to our king, we have to have a queen. And that queen is going to be the Ventu. Yes, I know they're the clan of kings. They're the clan of queens now, not in New York. Much like the Nosferatu, I think the Ventu character concept is clear. I think that they are rulers without the baggage of the Zishi, and without the attracting so many negative stereotypes as the La Sombra. I think the Toreador, while they share some aspects, are more flighty than the Ventu. So I think the Ventu as a clan, I've heard them pronounced Vontru as well sometimes, are just a really solid clan. It's uncontroversial to put them at antediluvians here, because I think anyone can look at a Ventu and come up with a good idea for a character. You can be a business magnate. You can be a member of fallen royalty, you know, an exiled royal. You can be look at their discipline spread. Dominate, presence, and fortitude. That is, for me, a really interesting spread, because it tells you something about the Ventu based on where the dots go. It's resistance, manipulation, and control. You know, see if you can assign which to which. And I think, even though there's some people have complained that Presence and Dominate are too similar and shouldn't be on one clan, I think it works perfectly for the Ventu. I think that for the Ventu, it is excellent. I think I've probably come up with more Ventu characters over time, and I know people have often compared me to a Ventu. So people will comment and say, look, there's the Ventu, or words to that effect. And they always assumed I was playing one when I did the Gentleman's Guide to the Vampires, until it started becoming clear that I wasn't. I think that's just because I'm English or British. I have an accent, and so people say, oh, he's naturally a Ventu. It isn't that. It's that I don't think there's a clan that offers itself to so many interesting concepts, from, you know, boxing promoter to gallery owner. The Toreador is the patron, obviously, of the gallery or the artist. From mafia boss to mafia hench person. The Ventu are just sublimely fantastic. They are a brilliant concept. And what's more, when you go into the Dark Ages, you can really start getting into the sort of Templar side of things. They are knights. They see themselves as honourable. They see themselves as loyal, as rich, as powerful. The Ventu inhale their own press, and they believe it. And so they believe they're better than everyone else, and they have this entire hierarchy within the clan that's almost like a corporate setup. I think the Ventu are antediluvian tier. Next to the Nosferatu, they are the only two I'm going to put up there. Obviously, if I could, I'd put everyone on antediluvian tier, but it's not a tier list unless I make some hard calls. So, my apologies specifically to the caitiff. Discharge is harsh, but there you go. My main apology here is to the Brujah, because good God, you got a kicking in this. And to the Cappadocian, I feel a little bad because they were my favourite clan for a very long time. But a big congratulations to the Nosferatu and the Ventu, who have risen to the top. They are the king and queen of this Vampire the Masquerade tier list. Thank you so much, everyone who has backed Curseborn on Kickstarter. This is the final day to do so. So if you are watching this live, please do check it out. The link is in the video description below. We have all put so much time and energy into it. The reason I'm back on YouTube is because of Curseborn. I want people to hear about it. So please check it out if you haven't already. And if you can only back for the PDF tier, that is still hugely appreciated. So check it out, and thank you so much for watching. Let's see if I get enough copies of Curseborn purchased that I have to make another damn video like this, but on Bloodlines. God help me. Bye-bye.